When you go to Solskjaer and Areta, you might have this really strange world where Solskjaer has finished second, really strong season. But if Arteta wins that, you've got Arteta with two major trophies, but a team that's finished ninth or wherever they've finished. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to ESPN's Football Forecast with myself, James Alcott, and my boy, Hugh Wozencroft. We're going to be talking about the big European ties this week, the semi-final second legs of the Champions League and the Europa League. Let's get straight into this, Hugh. Let's not mess about. Man City versus PSG, that second leg. And what I've got to say about this one, this is judgment day for Man City. For them, they need to get to a final. We all know about the amount of money that's gone into this football club, and they have a beautiful team there with a lot of great players. And even at the weekend, that second string tore Crystal Palace apart. I think generally, Hugh, actually, first question to you, is there any way that some of those players, the likes of Raheem Sterling, the likes of Aguero, could feature from the start in this game?
Honestly, the only player I think that Pep Guardiola will even consider changing is Gabriel Jesus in a forward role for Bernardo Silva. I just felt, and I know we spoke about it already, that they lacked that sharp, incisive player who was going to get them a goal when a half chance fell in the box. Bernardo Silva was waiting for a perfect opportunity. Kevin De Bruyne never really made those bursts that you'd expect a striker to make to the front post or the back post when the ball's coming into the box. That wasn't something that the PSG defenders really had to worry about. It was all in front of them, and Manchester City were sensational in terms of the possession, keeping the ball, particularly in the second half, obviously. But they never really got troubled in behind in the way that those defenders were maybe expecting to if a natural striker would have played.
And so if that happens to you, you're turning to Jesus, you're not turning to Aguero.
I do. I think fitness-wise, I think his ability to keep the ball, his footwork, out wide as well, in particular Gabriel Jesus, and in particular for a match of this magnitude, his work in defence. Pep Guardiola has spoken earlier on in the season just about how he could never get any other striker to do the defensive work that Gabriel Jesus was prepared to make. Almost, let's be honest, he's a midfielder, he's a false nine. He doesn't score the goals that we'd expect a Sergio Aguero to score, but he's a good mix of the two, more so than someone like Bernardo Silva. That's the only change from that team, I think, that we saw last week. Because I just don't think Raheem Sterling is in the form, Ferran Torres is in the form that you need for a match of this magnitude.
Yeah, I guess the other one I wonder about is if he starts to think, let's stop Neymar, let's stop, that player in that space through the central areas to get Mbappe on the ball. Edison, 31 touches in that last game, Mbappe, 30 touches. Look, that only matters so much. It's how crucial those touches are for Mbappe, but he didn't have a shot, full stop. So they need to find service to him. And I do wonder if Man City might just, if Pep does what he can do on occasion, which is overthink a little, does he start to think about Fernandinho and Rodri as two more midfielders there? I really hope he doesn't do this, because I think the biggest thing here, we could talk about players all day long. This is a psychological thing for this Man City group, I think, because there's no doubt they've got a very clear philosophy. There's no confusion on that. It's about being fluid. It's about being great on the ball. It's about controlling the game. But that in itself is very difficult to kind of do at the highest level in the most intense situations. That's why I call this a judgment day for Manchester City, because the scarring that could happen if they can't get over this hurdle this time, when they've, there's a great stat here. We've got 47 instances where an English side has been winning going into the second leg of a two-leg knockout tie. And every single time the English side has gone through. If Man City can't make their way through this hurdle, what does that say about Pep Guardiola and this team?
I agree with you. It is a mental thing. I'll answer your question in a moment. But what I would say is the level of performance in that second half against Paris Saint-Germain, I think something clicked, something changed with Manchester City. They almost moved from being a side that was wondering if they were good enough at this level to jumping to being a side that was almost arrogant at this level and wondering why they'd had this hanging over them for so long. It was like, oh my God, we're miles better than these guys. It's something clicked in that second half. And massively importantly, I think it was away from home. So it's almost like, oh my word, if we can do this at the Parc des Princes, what can we do at the Etihad Stadium? That's the place that we love playing, and we've won loads of trophies and we've won leagues. And I think they will carry a huge amount of confidence into that second leg, knowing if they get the first goal, that they can then manage the tie from there. It's going to be a brilliant first 20 minutes or so. Whether Kylian Mbappe plays or not is going to be a huge thing for Paris Saint-Germain. I know he didn't play at the weekend, so he's a big injury doubt. Hopefully for Paris Saint-Germain, he plays, because I don't think there's any way they go through without him. I think they should play another striker alongside him. I know Mauro Icardi played at the weekend. I think there should be a genuine front three this time around, and they should play less on the counter-attack. But to answer your question about Manchester City and getting over this hump, it's quite simple. Everyone in England believes that they won't have a better opportunity, particularly going into the second leg. It's massive for the club, because I think they will believe that going into a final, they've got a very good chance against either Chelsea or Real Madrid. Just simply a huge week for the club and the future, the reputation of Pep Guardiola. Question marks over his time at Bayern Munich. He goes to Manchester City. He still hasn't won a Champions League despite all the investment. And this really feels like their best opportunity now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there will be that little wobble at some stage. The first goal in all of these games is always so crucial. And I would be intrigued to see PSG get that first goal, because I'd love to see how Man City would react to that. That said, I think you're right. I just think my prediction for this from the start, I feel like this is Man City's year. I feel like that nervousness, which is there. I think Ilkay Gundogan had spoken last week about how this is a real thing. They are nervous about these games. They are nervous of the fact that they haven't got it done yet. But I think that gives that almost that extra motivation. And I think they make it through. I think it'll be tight, but I think by the end of it, there'll be a lot of Manchester City smiles. I think 2-0. I think they'll get it done. I think there'll be another blank from Mbappe, but a huge game for that centre-back partnership of John Stones and Ruben Dias, who, again, I just realised the other day, he's 23. He's so young. It's crazy. I think they go through. Do you think they go through?
In my heart of hearts, I think I'd have to say that I think Manchester City will go through. If Mbappe is fit and they go for it, Mikel Pochettino, of course, famously with his Spurs team when he reached
before,
shell-shocked Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. He'll play on that. I think he'll know from all the games that he's played against Manchester City that there is still a bit of a weakness. I think Chiellini said it about Tottenham themselves a few seasons ago. You know, this is a club with basically a mental fragility, and maybe Mauricio Pochettino tells his clubs, you know, they are still wondering if they're good enough at this level. We've been to a final last year. You've done it before. You know you're good enough. So go out there and you know, battle. See what happens. Throw the ball in the box. Cause confusion, because actually those are the sorts of things that Manchester City find difficult. When people try and play chess against Pep Guardiola and these players, it never works. You can't beat them at what they do. But you can throw the kitchen sink in there. You can try something totally different. You can play really direct. You can put numbers in the box, 4 or 5 bodies in the box. Yes, that leaves you more vulnerable to a counter-attack. But actually, Manchester City, they don't really like to counter-attack in that way. What they do is they break forward and they just go, oh, we've got the ball. They take a breath. They go back to they go back to the possession game, right? So I think there is a chance, but it rests on Kylian Mbappe being fit. I think in 90 minutes, PSG are going to win the game 2-1. But I think the level of possession will wear them down during extra time. Maybe City to go through either 3-1 in extra time or on penalties as well. But I think PSG win it in 90 minutes.
I love that. That's so specific. That's perfect. So, right, we're getting extra time, which is great news. I love a bit of extra time. That would go. Penalties would be great, wouldn't it? Penalties would be so good. Just as tight, the other semi-final, of course, Real Madrid against Chelsea. Of course, it will be at Stamford Bridge. This is, I mean, you think that first game's a tactical battle. This one, I loved watching it. I looked at Real Madrid in that first leg and I thought, they're tired. Like they're running on fumes, this team. I felt like it felt a little bit disjointed at times. And I think what was interesting, we both said we thought Kai Havertz would start that game because of how they'd been playing the last few weeks. I felt like it was all geared towards that. Tuchel does what Tuchel does, which is just give us a curveball and didn't play him, played Pulisic. And it was a great decision, wasn't it?
It was, and Timo Werner alongside him as well. I think it was just that directness, that energy. Pulisic got the first goal. Timo Werner really should have scored as well. I think he knows that he gets that frontline work rate. He gets that in behind running. It's always going to cause teams, especially defenders, to think twice about where they are on the pitch because there's always that risk with the pace in behind. So it was a really good decision from him. I think the midfield battle was pivotal. N'Golo Conte was fantastic with a man of the match performance, once again reminding us all, oh yeah, he is that good. Anyone that was doubting him, I think you were wrong about that. Interestingly, neither Luka Modric nor Toni Kroos played at the weekend. They were both on the bench. Neither was brought on. Now, when they were looking quite leggy, particularly in that midfield area last week, you're wondering, is this the end? Well into their 30s now, these two players. Do they still have it at the top level? And Zinedine Zidane managed to win the game in the Liga at the weekend, leaving them both out. That's going to be huge, I think. A little bit of a rest. Time to go into this match now, needing a really energetic performance. Both of them, I think, can deliver. They've got big names back in their defense as well. Massive for them as well, because that allows that security in midfield, knowing what's behind you, knowing it isn't a makeshift defense. I think that could be crucial. I still think there's a sting in the tail from Real Madrid. And I also think Eden Hazard back at Stamford Bridge. What do you think? Is he going to be the difference?
I think, yeah, I mean, you make some great points there about Kante and how that was interesting, actually, when you think about it. I guess you've got that front three that are ready to work so hard, in particular Pulisic and Werner up top there. And although you stretch it, you then create a bit more space for Pulisic and Mount. But actually, in terms of filling all that space, Kante, when I was doing some analysis on the game, and you look at his heat map, most of these players, like Jorginho, for example, sits, digs a hole, does not move from that spot. There's little spots all over the place with Kante. He's made for this tie. The thing I wonder, and I'm with you, is that because we've forgotten that this was 1-1. This finished 1-1. I think we all kind of felt like Chelsea won the game, dominated the game. But Hazard coming into this game, I think, creates a kind of another layer that, if you can get the ball to Kroos, he's got someone to play to a bit quicker, and Kante and the rest of the midfield won't be able to kind of close them down as much. I felt like they were really missing him in this game, and you saw it maybe in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. From the start, I've gone with Chelsea with this, but I always knew it was going to be really, really tight. The closer I get to the game, I just feel like the fact that Hazard's been able to get some minutes, for him to be there, I think that's a link that's going to help all of those other players in this team. And Benzema, 71st goal in the Champions League in that first semi-final. He is that clutch striker that at the end of the day, you look at Timo Werner in his season this year, his expected goals this season in the league, 11, he scored 9. In the Champions League, it's 5, but he's only scored 3. He doesn't take his chances. We saw it again at the weekend. And I think it might come down to those two strikers. It might come down to Werner against Benzema. And for me, there's only one winner out of those two, which makes you wonder if Real Madrid might do this.
I think they could. They could definitely do this. I think that experience is going to be a big difference. Of course, most of the players in that Real Madrid squad have won at least one Champions League title already. But of course, the main stem of that team, vastly experienced. And I think, although of course there's experience in the Chelsea team as well, not to the same extent.
Do you think Tuchel will do a curveball? Do you think there'll be another curveball?
No, I don't.
You think he plays Werner, he plays Pulisic, he plays Mount?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, he would have gone into that first match saying, who are the people I trust? What's my best team? We can't take any risks here. So he's played his hand already. Zinedine Zidane will know there won't be massive changes, barring injury, of course, to that team. But I think Real Madrid go into this knowing that, again, it's a bit like what I said about Manchester City. Once they hit their groove in a game like this, they are very, very difficult to stop. Modric and Kroos could monopolize the ball. I know Chelsea very good with possession. We spoke about that last week. But I just think with that rest, they go into that game and it's like, let's tick the ball back and forth, back and forth. I also think Benzema doesn't need as many chances to score. If he gets a good one, it's going in the back of the net. And that will be the difference. Going into the second half of the second leg, I think that's where the experience will really count. Some of the younger players in Chelsea's team, or the players that haven't played at this level, the Timo Werners, Christian Pulisic, never been at this level before. You've got Reece James or Ben Chilwell, for example. Christensen, real doubts. Mendy in goal, who mentally will be thinking, if they are shocked, if they're 1-0 down with 20 minutes to play, oh no, we're going out. This is it. Instead of the feeling that if it was the other way around, Real Madrid will be thinking, we've got late goals. We've got late goals. Yeah, we got a goal in the last minute against Atletico Madrid that took a final to extra time. They will feel more comfortable with the latter stages of the second leg, and that's why I just back them to go through. I really do. I think there's going to be an edge on this one, but it's so hard to see past Real Madrid for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's so tight, this one. And I think Tuchel has got it right time and again with his lineups. I know what you mean. I've gone with Chelsea from the start with this one, but I'm with you, Hugh. I kind of just feel like there's just a bit too much gloss, a little too much experience there with those guys. And I guess it's one of those where you've got this sort of up and coming fighter who's got the speed, but has he got the guile? I think
Do you know what
I'm really
the
struggling.
main thing is for me? How does a team who during the season just weren't a great side suddenly become the best side in Europe when they get this new manager, Thomas Tuchel? There's a part of me that thinks it's just been too easy. It can't be this easy for Chelsea. The law of averages, everything that we've seen in football over the years says something's got to give. And I think this might be the night.
Okay, right. I'll join you, Hugh. I'm going to go Real Madrid to make it through to the final. So Manchester City, Real Madrid final for me. Let us know what you think, though, guys, down below. We move on to the Europa League, and one of those semi-finals feels like it's pretty much finished. First time a team has scored 6 goals in a semi-final since 1964. Man United beating Roma, but of course the big talking point with Man United were the protests, and of course the postponement of that game. Of course, a lot of tension and ill feeling from the fans to the owners at the moment. But on the pitch, how do you think that will affect Man United going into this final semi-final? Do you think it's a problem at all?
No, I don't think it's going to be a problem for the squad. I think most of them have been aware of the fans' feeling towards the owners for the entire time that they've played for the club, to be perfectly honest. It would have been nice of them to see fans out on the pitch. And of course, the club's reputation, seeing those pictures across the world, anyone that's a Manchester United fan would have a little bit of disappointment seeing those fans go in there. But obviously, lots of people, to back them in that they've been unhappy with the ownership group. So look, it's a difficult one for the players. They just want to get out there and play the game. That's their job and that's their love, really. So I think they will actually be looking forward to getting out there, showing the fans how much they care and reaching a European final. It's been a while for them. So I think it's an important week in that regard. It's interesting, look, as we talk, whether this game's going to be played before the game against Roma, which would only give them a couple of days. Don't think it will be, but you never know with the way that the season is panning out from here on, whether they're going to get time to play this match. So that, of course, is another thing that has to be considered. But look, I went to that game at Old Trafford, Manchester United 6, Roma 2. I've never seen a side score 6 goals and win by a margin of 4 goals and me leave the ground thinking the manager was actually worse than when I went in, because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for me, it was playground football, it was childish football, it was end to end. I mean, thank God Paulo Fonseca was the manager in the other dugout, frankly, because neither of them played great. I mean, it was great entertainment.
Yeah,
but
great watch.
Yeah, I mean, neither of them is going to be winning any awards for the way they defended on that night. And Roma, I think it was both ends. They could have scored a few more and they could have conceded even more. So a night to forget for them, although they'll probably never forget it. But look, I'm looking forward to these games this weekend. I think Manchester United are virtually through, let's be honest. So the big tie is the game between Arsenal and Villarreal. I mean, huge for both of them, in particular Arsenal from an English perspective, but Villarreal equally. And the thing that I really loved about the first leg, Villarreal won it 2-1, of course, both had a man sent off. But Unai Emery, I mean, he was angry, he was snarling, he was aggressive, just the way that he celebrated each and every goal, each and every tackle. Oh, it was personal. It was personal for me. Yeah. So I think that's a massive game. I know we'll talk in a moment about a potential all-English final. I'm so intrigued to see what Villarreal bring up this Thursday night. How do you think they'll approach it?
So, of course, as you said, two sendings off there, Capoue and Ceballos taken out. Coquelin, ex-Arsenal, comes in and plays in that position for that game. I really like Villarreal. We spoke about this last week, and I just think they've got great balance. And I think it could have been worse for Arsenal. It was weird. Once it kind of went to sort of 10 men each, Arsenal started to sort of wake up a little bit. And, I think the good thing for Arsenal is that game against Newcastle, you've got your guy Aubameyang back in the team, scoring goals and incredibly comfortable victory against Newcastle, which when legs are tired, that's going to be useful, despite there being a good few days between now and the next game. I think I've got to kind of stick to my guns with this, though. I think they've got enough depth, Villarreal. Of course, it's at the Emirates, which suits Arsenal. I think this Arsenal team generally, when it's mattered, has let down Mikel Arteta. If you look at the 10 red cards in all competitions that occurred for Arsenal since Mikel Arteta became manager in December 2019, that's twice as many as any other Premier League team. I think that says a lot. As much as he is in trying to enforce these high standards, these new ideals, it certainly hasn't clicked yet. And so going into this game, like you say about Real Madrid, and you expect them to kind of have that, that experience, and you can trust them because they've been there and done it. This Arsenal team generally have let them down, apart from, the likes of Smith Rowe, likes of Saka, that has too much on their shoulders anyway at this stage, in my opinion. So I think the experience that Villarreal have, I think will help them through it. And I think with Arsenal, I worry for the fallout, because I think I see them going out. I really do see them going out.
I think the game of the weekend would have just been a confidence builder for Arsenal in particular. I understand everything you're saying about Villarreal, but the return of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang after his time out with malaria, getting on the score sheet, massive for them, particularly playing through the middle, and of course with the absence of Alex Lacazette at the moment. That's huge. If he gets a chance, he's a goal scorer. Get him closer to the goal, and you never know at home as well. But Gabriel Martinelli was fantastic at the weekend, playing off the left-hand side. Arsenal fans just want to see more of him out on the pitch, but it was another young player impressing in the Premier League for them. The huge thing for me when it comes to Arsenal is David Luiz came back in defence, and for the time that he played against Newcastle, he was spraying 30, 40, 50-yard balls. He looked so creative, taking the pressure off the midfielders at Arsenal, who we know haven't really performed in the central area, at least the way that the Arsenal fans would have wanted them to, and Mikel Arteta would have wanted them to. But David Luiz's distribution and his experience as well will be huge for Arsenal if he's fit to start the game, because of course he went off injured. So that's the big question mark. I know we'll find out in the coming days whether he's available. If he plays, that could be huge. That could be huge for Arsenal, I think, because there is something about those two players. And again, the quality and the experience at this level, I think, will be huge. Home as well. Unai Emery back at the Emirates Stadium. Maybe there's a bad feeling for him that it could all go wrong on the night. Yeah. The only, that away goal, really, that penalty from Pepe that Arsenal got away from home, I think that could really be the decider in this tie, because it could be tight once again. It could be a 1-1 draw, and that would mean, I think, that Villarreal go out. So this one is virtually impossible to call as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Villarreal. I feel like, Gerard Moreno as well. I think you need to think about him as a striker. He scored or assisted in every Europa League start this season. He is such a great striker for them, and loves this competition. I think, because as much as I'm hearing you talking about David Luiz, I get it. He's so great on the ball. He'll also give up a mistake quite often. So I could see Moreno maybe sitting on him and getting a chance. Alcacer as well, you've got who could play a part as well. I'm sticking with Villarreal, mate. I'm going to stick with Villarreal. Okay. I think that they'll make it through. I don't think it'll be an all-English final. What do you think?
Look, from an English perspective, I think we'd love to see an all-English final in both the Champions League and the Europa League. What a privileged position to be in.
Crazy.
I think Spain will have something to say about that, and it might well come in that game between Arsenal and Villarreal. Who knows, Real Madrid as well, who I back to go through. But look, the prospect of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going up against Mikel Arteta in a final actually should worry Manchester United fans, because Arsenal have usually performed pretty well against Manchester United in all the times that they've played against one another. Maybe it's that element of just knowing one another inside out that means there's a big difference. Of course, Mikel Arteta as well has been on the coaching staff at Manchester City as Pep Guardiola's assistant, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has done quite well against them, which basically means he's got a good idea of what works for Manchester United, and maybe he's been able so far to counteract that in the games that he's been managing Arsenal in. Look, it would be fantastic to see both of them go up against one another. It's simply huge for Mikel Arteta's future, more so than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, obviously, with Arsenal sitting in mid-table at the moment. But it would be just a massive game for both clubs, and one for us to look forward to, really. Do you think it's going to happen? No, you think Villarreal's going to go through?
I think like you say, that game is so tight. So it could easily happen. And I think that's such an interesting matchup, as you say, with Arteta. I mean, what I would say, I don't think that's a better final. If you think about some of the games that those two have played, maybe earlier in the season when Arsenal got that victory at Old Trafford, which came from a penalty, but ultimately Arsenal looked to stop a Man United team that was playing in a way that generally looks to stop the opposition, which is quite an awkward thing. But then when you go to Solskjaer and Arteta, you might have this really strange world where Solskjaer has finished second, really strong season. But if Arteta wins that, you've got Arteta with two major trophies, but a team that's finished ninth or wherever they've finished, playing in the Champions League. And then the debate continues of what really matters. Is it that consistency of finishing second in the league, or is it going and winning those trophies? I think it's for both of these teams, huge summers for both of them. But I think the concern is with Arsenal, isn't it? It's with Mikel Arteta and what he can do with that squad to take them from a team that's finishing ninth to finishing, in that top four, which is what they want. Whereas Solskjaer's on a much firmer footing regardless. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is. I don't think any Manchester United fan thought coming into the season that Manchester United would finish in the top two and above the likes of Liverpool. We just never envisaged that happening. So I think he's built a lot of credit in the bank. There's more of a style with Manchester United as well. People expected Mikel Arteta was going to kick on, that it would be something similar, maybe not in the top two, but a real strong challenge for a place in the top four this season, building on the FA Cup win from last year. And it never materialized. So there are big question marks over his future. Winning a trophy, again, would build him so much credit. Being in the Champions League next year would build him, with the club and the fans as well, just so much more credit than they have this season. It's just huge for his future as a manager, full stop. I mean, even if he's not the Arsenal manager full time, imagine I've been a manager for 2 years. I've won an FA Cup and a Europa League to move on to his next job with. It's massive for him, but I can tell that he's starting to feel the pressure. You could see with some of the decisions from his team in that first leg against Villarreal, the moments, his reaction to Ceballos' red, that I don't think he feels that trust in the players out there. He started out being that relaxed figure on the touchline. He's now cracking up slightly on the touchline when you see him, Mikel Arteta, and it's understandable. His side is so inconsistent. On their day, they can be a very strong side, and equally they can look like relegation candidates in other appearances, as poor as pretty much any team in the league. He needs to arrest that up and down, because that's just not acceptable for a club of Arsenal stature. Doesn't matter whether he's the manager next season or not. They will expect a strong challenge for a place in the top four. And I know lots of fans will say that's totally unrealistic. Look at the other teams in the Premier League. Inside Arsenal, they will believe that with some of the young talents that they have, and if they make a couple of decent signings in the summer, that it's more than possible. And you look at the likes of West Ham United doing it this year, there is no reason why Arsenal shouldn't be challenging for the top four next season.
Okay. Interesting stuff. A huge week for all the clubs involved. Hugh, thank you. Always so great to chat to you about the big games. We've given our predictions. What do you guys think? And also, here's a question. Hugh talking about Arsenal and how they get back up to the top. What kind of transfers, if I give you 3 transfers, what 3 transfers would you make for Arsenal? Players that you would bring in that would take them to the next level? Let us know down below. We'll see you next time on ESPN's Football Forecast.